Welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Knut Vidvei. I'm Cognite's Head of Product Management, and I have the pleasure of welcoming you all to Cognite's Product Tour. At Cognite, we provide simple access to complex industrial data. We empower production and process engineers, operations and field experts, data scientists, and digital teams with access to cross-data insights that accelerate high-quality decision-making to help our customers achieve optimal asset performance and increase production uptime. Before we begin, I'd like to outline what we'll share in the next 60 minutes. During today's product tour, you'll hear directly from our customers as they each demonstrate how they use our industrial data ops platform, Cognite Data Fusion, to increase operational efficiency, streamline workflows, improve collaboration, and achieve their business goals rapidly and at scale. For the Cognite demo, I will be joined by colleagues in the product organization who will demonstrate the unified and intuitive user experiences we're bringing to frontline industrial workers. We'll show you how you and your teams can efficiently search, find, and use industrial data to help solve operational use cases and effortlessly scale them across asset and enterprise. To set the stage for our product tour, we've invited Joe Lamming, a senior analyst in Verdantix, specializing in operational excellence practices and industrial data ops platforms. Joe will share with us the latest industry trends and challenges in the industrial data ops space, highlighting the importance of readily available industrial information in achieving operational excellence and driving digital transformation. So before I hand over the mic to Joe, I'd like to remind you that this is a recorded event and it will be made available on demand afterwards. Questions and follow-ups are always welcome now and in the future in our open user community, Cognite Hub, which you can find at hub.cognite.com.
Thank you, Cognite, for the introduction. So I'll just introduce myself briefly. I'm a senior analyst on the operational excellence team here at Verdantix. Been with the firm just over 2 years. Prior to that, spent several years in manufacturing and data science with a background in mechanical engineering. So much of my recent research has focused on industrial data management, AI-focused analytics, and the practical applications of generative AI to industry. So I'm now going to run through a brief definition that Verdantix have been using to define industrial data management solutions. So we see this as software facilitating a professional approach to managing data in asset-heavy industries, improving data quality and facilitating collaboration with domain experts and data scientists, all while constructing data pipelines for tracking and verifying the data origins from the moment of acquisition through usage and to eventual deletion. Let's talk briefly about why we at Verdantix are so interested in industrial data ops. So we were founded in 2008, have been covering data analytics and AI throughout. There was the IoT boom in the 2010s. Big data for industrial asset management saw our focus from 2021 onwards. Industrial data ops providers we looked at in 2021 as well, and with deeper analysis in 2022 and accelerating in 2023 and into 2024. So we'll briefly look at some drivers for industrial data management solutions. We see that it's stronger in 2024 than ever before. Before we get into some Verdantix survey data to back this up, here are some overall drivers that we see for this demand. So really, it's successful AI deployments that require robust data. These industries, they rely a lot upon real-time granular data streaming from multiple sources. Really, you need to have some data quality controller there to be able to use that for sophisticated anomaly detection, recommendation, and prediction AI models. There's also a bit of top-down pressure. So digital transformation with self-service, concisely visualized granular and big picture data is necessary for business leaders to make decisions quickly. There's also cost reduction and efficiency initiatives, production optimization, operational safety goals necessitate data acquisition, data ops, and seamless connection to analytics to identify improvement areas and improve collaboration. We also have sustainability reporting, which is really increasingly rigorous ESG and sustainability regulations, necessitating the need for robust data management. So here we have our market size and forecast on industrial AI-focused analytics solutions, which we published back in December. Overall, we can see that the compound annual growth rate at just under 24%, very significant in the industrial software space. Biggest spend areas we identified are asset condition monitoring, predictive maintenance, and product and process management, with slightly less going towards energy management and supply chain optimization. Interesting as well are the even higher compound annual growth rates, particularly for supply chain optimization and production and process management. So here's some more Verdantix survey data from our Operational Excellence Global Corporate Survey, which we run every year. This slide shows answers related to data aggregation. Let's say this is pulling data into one place from disparate sources. And also from 2022, which focused on the perceived importance, and then 2023, which focused on the perceived significance of the challenge. While these aren't apples-to-apples comparisons right now on this slide, we can see across the general cohort, so that's the 301 and 304 totals you can see on the charts, alongside the specific data cuts for process manufacturing and oil and gas, data aggregation is seen as both important and a significant challenge for basically everyone surveyed. Notable 2022 is that a third of all oil and gas executives see data aggregation as very important, and only 1% seeing it as unimportant. Looking at 2023 data, it's also interesting that oil and gas firms see it as slightly less of a significant challenge than process industries. So here's a different question from the same two surveys, this time looking at data access and collaboration, specifically between data scientists, operations, and maintenance executives. Compared to the previous slide on data aggregation, we see that data access and collaboration is slightly more polarizing, but with the vast majority seeing it as important or very important. Looking at the most recent 2023 data, however, we see that the challenges of such collaboration are clearly known by respondents. More than half of those in oil and gas see such collaboration as a very significant challenge in 2024, with 11% seeing it as insignificant. Clearly, there's perceived room for improvement within the energy sector with regard to data access and collaboration. Now let's take a look at the same two surveys, specifically at contextualization, which is all about assembling information into digestible payloads for data scientists and executives for data-driven decision-making. In 2022, the perceived importance of this was very strong, with nearly half in oil and gas seeing it as very important. In 2023, the perceived importance of data contextualization is still great, with 76% seeing it as significant or very significant for 2024, and 77% overall in oil and gas. The final data point from these two surveys looks at data quality management, really all about automating the monitoring of sensors for drift and failure, performing cross-referencing of tags, and other data quality governance enforcement frameworks. We see that the overall cohorts see this as generally more important than oil and gas firms, though still for more than 3/4 of value quality according to 2022 data. In 2023, the significance of the challenge is more consistent across industries, with around 1/3 seeing data quality as a very significant challenge and another half seeing it as significant. Our final survey data point for my presentation today will look at the perceived impact of generative AI from our survey conducted towards the end of 2023. Unsurprisingly, only 5% see generative AI resulting in no changes in industrial operations. Our survey data shows that obviously a lot of people in industrial settings are expected to use Gen AI to automate admin tasks, such as creating templates and drafting emails. There's also almost an equal amount of people who expect to be able to improve data access and to be able to directly query technical documentation, enabled by robust industrial data management solutions able to link together and query these unstructured data sources. There are, of course, challenges with Gen AI. The EU AI Act and other regulations around the world, even copyright law, firms will have to be more transparent on what data, be it text, images, video, audio, or even time series data, these AI models are trained on. And finally, deploying AI is extremely difficult, especially when considering fine-tuning on domain-specific data. We see buyers finding success by partnering with data management software vendors to achieve this. I'll briefly cover an exciting data modeling strategy we're seeing vendors increasingly use for industrial data built upon graph databases or similar technologies. Basically, what graph databases do is they help capture and illustrate semantic relationships between entities, be they workers, assets, processes, documentation, even 3D models. Entity resolution is somewhat enforced by the labeled property graph, reducing the amount of duplicate, siloed data in industrial organizations. Such interconnected data also improves data discovery, improving search, as demonstrated for many years by big tech players such as Google and their search product. This type of data modeling also helps data scientists, engineers, and operations professionals perform network analysis for critical processes, seeing what's related, what a cascading failure could look like. And finally, such semantic data models provide much better grounding to AI agents, AI copilots, enterprise search engines to reduce hallucinations by providing clear, contextualized data as part of their inference pipeline. And now to wrap it up, I'd like to outline the top 6 critical capabilities we see leading industrial data management vendors offer. These are easy to configure data connectors, really. It's about the data access. Pre-built data quality management, again, relating to the survey data discussed a moment ago. There's also integrations with the business intelligence, the dashboards, enterprise data visualization tools used by decision makers globally. There's also contextualization through strategies like graph ontologies, as discussed on the previous slide, but also existing asset hierarchies and taxonomies. Enabling data discovery through knowledge graphs, really putting that the data models to work. And finally, collaborative low-code, no-code graphical user interfaces augmented with AI copilots that actually help automate some repetitive processes, data retrieval, and getting the domain experts and the data scientists on the same page with regard to operations. And with that, I will hand back over to Cognite.
Hi, my name is Hiroki Nakagawa, and I am the Director of DX Promotion Division at NIPPON SHOKUBAI. NIPPON SHOKUBAI is a worldwide chemical manufacturer that provides materials and solutions required by people and society, from super-absorbent polymers, raw material of detergents, automotive paints, and other customer goods to next-generation batteries and health and medical materials. In my current role, I am responsible for promoting digital transformation at NIPPON SHOKUBAI. I apologize for speaking in Japanese from now on because I'm more proficient in Japanese than English. 私たち日本触媒は長期ビジョンテクノアメニティ for the future の実現に向け5つの重点領域でデジタルトランスフォーメーション戦略を加速させています。その一つが情報統合基盤の構築や AI を活用した制裁計画作成などによるプラントの稼働生産性向上です。我々はすべての従業員がテクノロジーとデータを活用する素養を備えることができるようサポートする教育をスタートしています。また、さまざまな既存データと将来のデータをシームレスに統合できる情報統合基盤を整備し、そこに集まったあらゆるデータを解析することによって、プラントの生産性を高めることにつなげ、企業としての優位性を高めるとともに、新しい価値を創造することを目指しています。日本触媒は化学品を生産するプラントの生産性を高め、増大する顧客や社会のニーズに応えながら、持続可能な操業をリードしたいと考えています。プロセスエンジニア、現場作業員や運転管理者は、迅速な意思決定を効率的に行う必要があることがよくありますが、複雑なデータランドスケープとその情報を取得する方法は煩雑で時間がかかります。従業員があらゆるデータへシンプルにアクセスできるデジタルツールを提供することで、意思決定プロセスの迅速化、予知保全の実践の改善、生産性の向上、製造プロセスとワークフローの最適化を支援します。我々の姫路工場では、あらゆるデータがサイロ化しておりました。DCS の運転データ、メンテナンス履歴、故障情報データ、点検写真などはデジタル化はされていますが、データの種類ごとに異なるシステムに保存されており、 すべてを一つのビューにまとめて確認、分析することは不可能でした。20年近く蓄積されている DCS の運転データの中から必要なものを取り出すだけでも時として数十分を必要としていました。さらにエンジニアリング図や P&ID は PDF 形式で他のさまざまなファイルとともに管理者も異なるバラバラのデータベースに保存されていました。これらすべてのデータをまとめ、従業員にとって意味のあるものにすることは困難で非常に時間がかかりました。このように問題解決や改善のために調査、分析が必要な際にもデータを集めることに非常に多くの労力が必要で、本来必要な調査、分析にかける時間が不十分となることが通常でした。また、そもそもデータ収集自体が面倒で、問題解決や改善に手をつけないことも多くありました。これらの課題を克服するには、まずすべてのデータを1箇所に集約するだけでなく、従業員がさまざまなタスクやプロセスを実行するのに最適な方法で、これらのデータに簡単にアクセスできるようにする必要があります。私たちはそれを実現するツールが欲しかったのですが、Cogniteデータフュージョンと出会って、それを実現可能とすることができました。弊社オリジナルのポータルサイトからカスタムアプリを立ち上げます。これは弊社用に開発したカスタムアプリ画面になりますが、Cogniteは API と SDK がオープンなので、弊社のニーズに合ったカスタムインターフェースを構築することができました。所内で使用します設備関連情報がプラントごとにまとめられ、図面の連携の有無や設備依頼の発生状況など一覧で表示され、オペレーター目線で利用しやすいものになっています。ある機器の機器図面を表示します。このように非常にレスポンスよく情報の取得が可能です。もう少し詳細な情報が欲しい場合は、機器個別に別窓で情報表示が可能です。別プラントに切り替えて、別装置の P&ID を表示させてみましょう。機器一覧表示からクリック操作で簡単に呼び出せます。P&ID には各機器名に情報連携のリンク枠がついています。このズームアップ機能はアプリのオリジナル機能です。景気は即グラフ化が可能です。このように複数景気を青枠で囲んでまとめてグラフ化する機能はこのアプリのオリジナル機能です。4つの景気が対象してグラフ展開され、このように描写スピードがかなり速く、操作一つで期間の調整、拡大縮小が可能であり、非常にレスポンスよく傾向やポイントをつかむことができると思います。もう一つ、インダストリアルキャンバスというものを使おうというふうに考えております。インダストリアルキャンバスでは、DCS グラフィックスのスクリーンショットを利用した活用を検討しています。このように貼り付けたデータに対してテキスト化をかけて P&ID 同様にデータ連携が可能になります。また特徴として現在地データを表示させることができます。機器情報や数値データのグラフ化も可能です。数値情報は式値設定が可能で、このように範囲を外れると赤い表示ができる、ということも可能になります。弊社ではこのように現場作業員を支援する仕組みとしても CTF を活用していきます。日本触媒では現場作業員が現場で点検作業を行いながら運転データを登録できる拡張ソリューションであるインフィールドの導入も進めています。デスクトップと同じ情報にアクセスすることができ、ダイアグラムを操作したり、時系列やドキュメントを確認したりすることができます。DCS に接続されていない機器のデータもリアルタイムで扱えることにより、これまで以上にデータの信憑性が増します。これはプロセスエンジニア、現場作業員や運転管理者が問題に対処するべきために何をすべきかを迅速にかつ正確に判断することにつながります。点検作業の進捗状況も管制室などから把握できますし、これは現場作業員の安全にも寄与すると考えています。 Cogniteデータフュージョンはそこに搭載されている関数を利用して、ある程度の分析をその中で行うことも可能ですが、ラピッドマイナーなどの機械学習ツール、あるいはその他のサードパーティーツールと接続し、そこでより高度な分析を行い、その結果を CDF に送り返して、結果をチャートで可視化することも可能です。コグナイト社の派遣エンジニアによる最初の実装には約3ヶ月かかりました。イメージ製造所の約70の生産プラントから12のプラントを選定し、主要な運用データ、設備であったり、運用であったり、図面、メンテナンスなど、これらをコグナイトデータフュージョンにインポートし、コンテキスト化しました。その後、約1年かけて、ユーティリティ設備を含めて100余りある姫路製造所すべてのプラントにコグナイトデータフュージョンを導入を完了いたしました。アクセスしたいデータに迅速にアクセスできるようになったというユーザーからのフィードバックは非常に肯定的です。コグナイトデータフュージョンを使ってあちこちに散らばったデータを収集する手間の削減だけで年間9000時間の工数削減を見込んでいます。さらには分析の高度化と高頻度化が可能になることによって予兆保全の実施によるトラブルの削減やメンテナンスコストの低減、修率向上、環境負荷低減などの生産性向上につながると考えています。日本触媒の他の製造所でもコグナイトデータフュージョンを使用することを計画しています。我々日本触媒は今後もコグナイト社との協業を継続し、コグナイトデータフュージョンを活用して、個別機器や設備全体とそれらの状況をより効率的に理解できるようにするためにデジタルツインを導入し、その範囲を拡大していく予定です。また、コグナイトデータフュージョンを海外の工場にも導入し、マザープラントである姫路製造所との間で、機器、運用、図面、メンテナンスデータなどをシームレスに情報を共有することができるようにすることで、問題への迅速な対応と安全で信頼性の高い運用の推進を可能にする予定です。将来的にはロボットを使って設備の監視や効率的なデータ収集を行うことで、現場作業員の作業負荷を軽減し、プラントの安全性を向上させたいとも考えています。Thank you for listening. I hope you will find this tool useful.
Hi, my name is Oliver, and I'm MaMaTa's Chief Data Officer. At MaMaTa, we love industry and we love stories. Fortunately, workers on the shop floor are great at telling stories, holding a wealth of undocumented tribal knowledge. Industrial assets also share a lot of data about their conditions and their behavior, but in their own language and often in a very unstructured manner. Our mission is to decode and reconcile those two sides of the same story, delivering this knowledge to both OEMs and shop floor workers in a way that they can understand and use it. This will enable them to make more informed, knowledge-driven decisions, ultimately boosting industrial performance. Plus, it's also very important to us that we do this in a scalable and efficient way. MaMaTa is a subsidiary of the same group as Mechatherm, a leader OEM in the industrial bakery. So they are our main focus to date, and we provide them with our tool to help them better understand their equipment and as a way to stay close to their remote clients. There's a saying that in every machine, about 70% of the functions have been reused from other equipment, and only 30% are very specific. Our objective is to take that into account so that the knowledge we create about a machine, a function, or an actuator is immediately linked to similar assets, enriching the whole knowledge graph. As an example, a baker would be surprised to learn that a glass wool insulation panel is also processed using proofing and baking. Therefore, every machine we connect should be considered a modular, configurable system. Connecting new equipment should be a breeze, and valuable information should start flowing immediately especially for the standard components or functions. To meet our objective, we explored various platform solutions, but we encountered several issues. Many options were no-code platforms that were not powerful enough or simply not designed with industrial use cases in mind. They also lacked flexible data modeling tools, which was a significant drawback for our needs. Additionally, connecting new equipment or new production line was a very tedious and time-consuming task. The data processing capabilities were often limited, usually just offering a basic functional library. And finally, there was no room to convert shop floor stories into structured data, which is essential for our operations. To address the challenges I described, we decided to choose Cognite Data Fusion, and I'll share with you some of the things we have done with the platform. So let's begin with the data modeling service. Data modeling is important for MaMaTa because it allows us to create a place for every piece of data that we collect, be it a time series or a piece of knowledge shared by a subject matter expert. With our previous platform, we were limited to sites, lines, and equipment to store all the data. Now we have a much more complex data model, and you can see that we can store very detailed information about a specific equipment, but in a standard way. For example, we have our own definition of a process equipment, which for us is always made of a conveyor part and a process part. And here you can see that we model things up to the motor and its components. Now let me show you how we work with Cognite charts. Once the data is stored in the data model, we begin to work on the understanding of that data. For that, we use charts. It's like our prototyping playground. For example, on that stone oven, we can see that the cylinder on the left-hand side of the conveyor, which is used to tension the chain, is not behaving as expected. It should be as smooth as the one on the right-hand side. A subject matter expert would tell us that it is because the chain on that side is becoming stiff due to a greasing problem. On that similar oven, I'm surprised to see that the motor current is oscillating. But I'm curious to find out at what frequency in order to understand what component is involved. For that, let's move on to an app that we developed on Streamlit inside CDF. In this app, we can calculate the fast Fourier transfer of our oven motor current. It is valuable for us to be able to use this advanced diagnosis tool that we created without ever leaving the platform. By the way, we can immediately see that things were different at the beginning of May from what they seem to be right now. We would have to investigate with the expert to what we could link the increase of amplitude that we can see, but I can already say that this will be interesting to monitor in the long run. So we will work on packaging that as a function that will run on CDF. It will eventually generate its own time series and, if necessary, also some alerts that would be sent to shop floor workers through our customer portal. Finally, let me show you the front end that we built to deliver actionable insights to people at MaMaTa and on customer factories in a user-friendly way. On that portal, we can present the same data, but in a very refined and contextualized way. For that, using the API and the SDK available was a game changer. We are able to easily pull data from CDF to visualize it on the portal and create a compelling user experience. The alert that we were talking about would end up here. Of course, most of the data we are collecting is also available. For an asset like the stone oven, the key indicators can be seen at a glance. But the main point for us is that everything from collecting a new measurement on an asset to the data being available through the API is very quick, so we can answer a new need expressed by one of our customers in a very agile way and improve our solution rapidly. So far, we've managed in 3 months to get from no platform and no front end to a first site connected and its data available in the first version of our customer portal. Everything is now in place to accelerate, connect more assets, and develop the whole solution to offer even more value to people at MaMaTa and on bakery production sites. Being able to offer our digital solution to prospects has already allowed us to defend our margin in a recent contract win. We also want to take advantage of the GenAI capabilities in CDF to present knowledge in a more natural and intuitive way. One thing I envision is dynamically adapting the content based on the user's profile, tailoring it to their level of technical expertise. To finish, thank you for having me, and thanks a lot to the team at Cognite for assisting us in the last months. We clearly could not have made it without you. Thanks, guys.
Now that you've seen firsthand how Cognite Data Fusion helps improve operational processes for our customers, let's dive into our product demo to showcase how simple access to complex industrial data at scale can enhance your team's efficiency and deliver tangible business results.
Cognite Data Fusion is purpose-built for the industry. And at Cognite, we understand the unique challenges faced by operation teams when it comes to industrial data and its complexity. Industry research shows that process engineers, field workers, and maintenance teams spend up to 50% of their time searching for information, leaving less time for inspections, maintenance reviews, and general operations. Industrial users deserve a better experience when accessing and working with industrial data. So let me show you how Cognite Data Fusion enables our customers with a fast, seamless, and intuitive way of searching, finding, and exploring their data more efficiently than ever before. Starting with the homepage for Cognite Data Fusion, we have simplified with persona-based workspaces. These are tailored specifically for industrial users, data managers, and admins. Focusing on industrial users today, meaning the subject matter experts, the workspace Industrial Tools is the starting point. From here, you find your latest activities and the tools like search, charts, industrial canvas, and custom applications like Streamlit apps. In this workspace, you can start exploring your data from the digital twin. You see in the middle of the screen, we have this one-click access to your evergreen digital twin in 3D by clicking the Browse 3D button. So either from here or by browsing mode, you can find all contextual industrial data across IT, OT, engineering, and unstructured data sources in one place, all pulled from the evergreen industrial knowledge graph. But there is no one common industrial reality, so we have ensured that the configuration of the search experience is flexible. As an example, we know that most industrial users have their work tied to a or several locations, like a physical area. When the admin configures locations, she's effectively making a filter on what data the location shows you, across data models, spaces, 3D content, and more. For you, it means that instead of having to see all data from, for instance, all global manufacturing plants in one view, you can choose which context you are exploring in. You also personally have full control of how data is presented. You can customize, for instance, which properties that you want to focus on, like adding a column to show type, as well as sort your data while browsing or searching. Let's say you want to sort by files, descending size. You can also filter to narrow down the list of results, like filtering on a defined property, or one of the saved filters configured for the project, like PNIDs. You can safely dig into the filtered data without worrying about having to go through the filtering steps again when you return. They're all kept in the result list. So this is browsing. You can also type a direct query. Let's say you're looking for something specific like equipment 21 PT 1017. You will be presented with all matches when you type, direct or fuzzy, across all the categories. If you hover over an item, it will show you the preview with a summary. If you click open on this preview, it takes you to the contextualized view of all associated data of this object. That means the parent, your root, properties, linked assets, time series for sensor data, files like PNIDs, events like work orders, and your 3D preview. You can also use conversational language to find or summarize data. So we have integrated the Cognite Copilot, and you can, for instance, ask how many hours of work are planned for work orders in 2024 and what's their status. The Copilot then uses this input to identify the correct category with results and applies filters matching your query. A chart visualization with statistics appears, and we can see that we have a number of planned, cancelled, and in-progress work orders in 2024. We can also investigate the filters that Copilot applied. This means that you have full transparency, and you can additionally manually modify these applied filters to refine the results, like for instance narrowing down the work orders to a specific program number. You can also manually, without the help from Copilot, create chart visualizations of your data and visualize metrics such as counts and averages with just a few clicks. These sorts of visualizations are often highly valuable as they help us summarize and make sense of complex data. Finally, we can also jump into digital twin, exploring 3D content for an enhanced spatial understanding. This is valuable to plan work, perform efficient troubleshooting, and improve decision-making in various scenarios and contexts. You can easily navigate the 3D content, for instance, applying your CAD, point cloud, and 360 images. You can also highlight contextualized assets in 3D. Clicking on any of these contextualized objects gives you a summary card, and you can either jump into more details or also side by side with the 3D model have a look at, for instance, the associated PNID. Other functionality include how we can use the measurements tool to perform spatial analysis, like analyzing the need for scaffolding to reach a specific area, or whether or not there will be room for the new equipment that you're planning for. You can measure point-to-point, multi-point, area, and volume. Here we show an example of having point-to-point measurements. Lastly, we can't miss to cover how we can use color overlay functionality. With color overlays, assets in 3D are colored based on threshold rules, single or nested, that you have created to monitor various equipment or operational conditions, like the level of corrosion or pressure changes. When you turn on color overlay here for monitoring of compressor health, it will highlight if there's any objects in 3D that are violating that threshold. And we can see here that there's one compressor that needs attention. For troubleshooting, you might also want to access this data out there in the field from a handheld device. And you can. For similarly to the desktop experience, Cognite Data Fusion enables field workers to find and interact with the same set of contextualized data from their handheld device, bringing more efficiency and ease of work out to the field. On your handheld device, starting with the search mode, we can look for the same first stage compressor by using the search field. Finding the equipment, you can see associated data, including interacting with this high-performant web streaming of contextualized 3D models that lets you as a field expert fully interact with 3D content, even on low-powered devices, making navigating unfamiliar areas and inspecting hard-to-reach equipment much easier. So while being out in the field, you as a field worker can inspect this first stage compressor, and you can even add an observation tied to it if you find something interesting worth noting of. Then, going back to the desktop view, we can open up this associated data to the compressor and look for historical data to help speed up the root cause analysis of the current threshold breach. In files, we see this previous root cause analysis performed where the identified cause was loss of containment. We could use Copilot to summarize this root cause analysis file or ask questions to it, but for this sort of analysis, it can make sense to pass it on to the reliability team for further investigation through the collaborative industrial canvas. To summarize, with the ability to find industrial information in just seconds, you and your team no longer need to go back and forth between the office and the field, navigating across different sources and systems, or reach out to different people and teams to find and validate information. Similar to our customers, your frontline can save hundreds of hours searching for information. This can lead to as much as 20% increased productivity by letting them focus more of their time and energy on critical tasks, problem solving, and other high-value activities. Now, let's continue this root cause analysis journey and learn more about Industrial Canvas. Industrial Canvas helps users explore, interact, work, and collaborate on industrial data in an intuitive and unique way. I just passed a message to Hunter, and he will continue to investigate the potential loss of containment through the Industrial Canvas and charts.
Thanks, Sophia. Let's jump straight into Industrial Canvas. I can see here where she's giving me an indication this particular compressor is having some issues, potentially a loss of containment. So I need to check that out. And honestly, many different industrial workflows, and especially troubleshooting, et cetera, start with just finding related information around that particular piece of equipment. And so that's the first thing I'm going to do here. So doing a bit more constrained search than what we saw Sophia doing earlier, where now I'm looking at just information around that piece of equipment. For example, the time series coming from the historian, the PNID coming from document management systems. I see here there's actually a previous RCA report for a similar issue that happened, so that definitely sounds relevant. And all of this information can be brought into the canvas so that you can then interact with it and use it during the troubleshooting process. So moving it around, taking notes, adding sticky notes as you go so that you can capture all that information. But it's worth noting that this information is not just dumb, static information. For example, this PNID here, we can see is actually interactive. For example, when I click on the compressor in the PNID, I can see that related data as well, or for example, pull in a 3D model. Now I can check in 3D the potential spacing constraints of work being done around it or what have you. Or, for example, I can look upstream in the PNID, and I know, for example, that this particular process safety valve has caused some issues, so maybe I want to pull that into the canvas. So again, the point isn't here the exact data or the exact flow that I'm walking through, but rather that no matter what information I'm looking for, I'm always one click away from being able to find that information in context and be able to use it in my workflow. Moreover, things like the time series data that we see here, it's easy to think that this is just a static chart that's been added, but one, I can interact with this information to do a little bit deeper investigation. And Cognite also supports further analysis of that time series data through our tool, Cognite Charts. So now, stepping into our charts tool, we create a new troubleshooting chart for my compressor and bring that information into a rich interactive display like this. So now we see that exact same time series information in Cognite Charts, where I can, of course, take a look at the data points relevant to it. I can also do a bit of basic out-of-the-box profiling of that time series data. You know, the gap length, the time series spread, etc. Information that's very relevant when investigating the data points. But I'm also able to do completely no-code calculations on that data as well. So here I can just add a calculation, bring in that particular source time series that we've been working on, and also look through dozens of different out-of-the-box functions that Cognite provides. For example, smoothing, where I can bring that in as a module, edit some things, and we're good to go. And also string together many different things. For example, after I've smoothed that time series out, maybe I want to detect drift on the time series. And I can, of course, edit these. But the point is that previously this would have taken code or data scientists to do this sort of work. And now in less than 30 seconds, I have done all of that in a completely no-code fashion. And we can see this new blue line here is my smooth drift calculation. Pulled in automatically for me to be able to investigate and to look at on that particular time series where there might be drift. Furthermore, of course, this is great for me as an individual investigating, but I'm also able to save and schedule that calculation so that other people in the organization can use it. So I can classify that as a drift calculation, select the data set, we want to run it every hour, and we could start that schedule. And now what this will do is it'll actually every hour run that same calculation that we're seeing here in the UI, but write that back to a time series in Cognite Data Fusion so it can be used by other users, by other models, in other canvases, etc. And I can also set up alerting on that. So here, create a new monitoring job where I can monitor for drift, actually select the calculation for drift as an option, and give an alert where in this case, we know that it's a binary 0 or 1. So if the threshold is over 0 for a minimum of 1 minute, then we want to send an alert, and in this case to me. And the point is now, within a few minutes, we've been able to bring in the relevant data, do a calculation on that data, save that calculation back to Cognite Data Fusion, and proactively monitor that calculation so that I get alerts when any of that any of those problems are occurring. And lastly,
Of course, I've been doing all of this work in Cognite Charts, which is of course integrated back to Industrial Canvas. So now I can add this exact same chart back to that same compressor troubleshooting canvas that I was working on earlier. So now we're going to jump back into that. So now we can see that we've actually brought that exact chart with all of the details and calculations into the Industrial Canvas as well. So we're completely closing the loop on the analysis of being able to start with an open-ended question, dig into a bit more of the time series data, and then provide more context back into the canvas as well. Lastly, of course, it doesn't have to just be information around that equipment that's relevant to the troubleshooting process. We can also, for example, look at other relevant information in the organization. For example, maybe my company has some descriptions on common causes of failures in process safety valves. So I can bring in that document. So again, this is completely proprietary internal information. And it's 74 pages, which is, of course, I could read through if I wanted to, but I can also ask generative AI to do that on my behalf. So ask here, how to troubleshoot a PSV. So generative AI will read through that whole document and actually give me a summary of the answer to my question. So how to troubleshoot that PSV, which it recognized was a process safety valve without me telling it, and give some hints as to how to do it. But again, this is a safety critical system, so it's important as well that generative AI is showing its homework. So you can see here, we also give indications of where in the document it's getting those answers from, so that you can further assess that as an individual here, and also look at other information that might be relevant around it. And of course, we're able to add that back as a sticky note to the canvas for future reference. And of course, you might have noticed that we kicked off this entire work in Industrial Canvas with a comment from my colleague, but it should go without saying that this entire experience is built to be a collaborative one that the entire organization or teams can work together to solve problems, including being able to ultimately share that canvas with individuals like my colleague Sophia did, or make it public for my entire organization to be able to consume and use that canvas. And of course, that also means that we have the ability to version control the canvas. It means we have also the ability to, for example, lock the canvas, so that then when I'm done with the entire troubleshooting process, I can lock it down so that it can be used for future reference when somebody's doing troubleshooting on that exact same equipment or on a similar type of equipment in the future.
What Industrial Canvas and Charts really demonstrate is that you no longer need to navigate through different systems and sources or documents, spreadsheets scattered across different teams, phone calls, and more. This is how intuitive and efficient the experience working with data for every industrial user should be, whether they're investigating potential equipment failure, planning for maintenance, or doing turnaround preparations. Our customers tell us that Industrial Canvas and Charts have saved them many hours and even days on searching and creating insights to accelerate decision-making by up to 90%. And as you remember, Verdantix mentioned earlier that collaborating on industrial data and insights is really crucial when it comes to improving operational efficiencies. This leads to quicker resolution times to avoid potential unplanned downtime and reuse of insights across teams, all while fostering unprecedented levels of collaboration. Now, let me hand it over to our final speaker, Elise, who will share how Cognite Data Fusion approaches scalability to help achieve operational excellence quicker and accelerate ROI, not just at one line or site, but across the entire enterprise.
Reducing the time to find, explore, and actually use messy data is just the first step towards transformational value that can be achieved with Cognite Data Fusion. We help our customers deploy and scale their data platform so that they can handle niche industrial use cases, things like turnaround preparation, maintenance, or digital autonomous operator rounds. We can scale across assets and sites within weeks or even days, but it goes beyond that. Cognite Data Fusion can help you and your teams rapidly build and scale hundreds of tailored solutions across the enterprise. It's not just simply scaling the data, but scaling the reliability and performance of your assets. Let's take a quick look into the capabilities that make this possible. Our customers have access to a library of more than 90 pre-built extractors, including OPC UA, SAP, OSDU, OSIsoft, and more. Our extractors allow users to pull and integrate all types of data from different sources into one centralized location. To ensure data reliability and trustworthiness, you can also create and monitor data extraction pipelines, just in the case that there are any interruptions or failures in the data flow. By leveraging live extractors at the data platform level, and users are able to get real-time insights into the performance of the facility. They can implement preventative measures, and they're empowered to address issues before they turn into costly failures in the field itself. Cognite Data Fusion can contextualize all types of data. We can now even contextualize complex, large point clouds so that you can build dynamic digital twins. These types of twins offer more flexibility compared to your traditional 3D model, especially for dynamic brownfield type facilities. Point clouds can provide highly detailed and precise representations of your facility, and most importantly, the spatial context of everything within it. Plus, users can augment the models by adding new objects, annotations, or even comments to other users where it's necessary. They can overlay point clouds with 3D models or even photogrammetry. And the beauty of all of this is that it's all contextualized and saved into the digital twin in one environment. These dynamic twins let users easily navigate relationships between different assets and the source systems, and in turn allows them to optimize workflows, asset performance management processes, and more. Cognite Data Fusion's robust data modeling capabilities can operationalize and scale hundreds of use cases, including machine learning and your AI needs. We can craft niche workflows by choosing to build data models in the platform, or you can opt for out-of-the-box models provided by Cognite, which are industry-specific. Regardless, any model in Cognite Data Fusion can be modified and tailored to suit the needs of your equipment, site, enterprise, or use case. Finally, Cognite is proud to say that we have well-documented APIs and SDKs. We want to enable our customers to leverage the platform for themselves. Whether they're building custom user interfaces or connecting to pre-existing apps or third-party tools, we empower our customers to consume data however their business demands. Having a robust and scalable data ops platform like Cognite Data Fusion brings tremendous value to operational processes and asset performance while directly contributing to accelerating digital ambitions. For example, one customer delivering the same $500 million in profitability improvement just 1 or 2 years earlier led to hundreds of millions of dollars in improved net present value for the digital transformation program. In addition, Cognite has a proven 400% ROI of digital programs. By solving the data problem and enabling, for example, a quicker turnaround of your downstream assets, Cognite can create efficiencies which contribute to tens of millions of dollars of business impact for our customers.
Today, we've showed you how Cognite Data Fusion provides simple access to complex industrial data, empowering your frontline teams and experts to deliver operational excellence, scalable business results, and accelerate your digital journey. This year, we'll continue to strengthen the unified user experience for industrial users, as well as strengthen Cognite's core capabilities. We'll further simplify industrial data search and end-to-end collaborative troubleshooting. We'll help users improve key operational processes, such as turnaround planning, operator rounds, asset health overviews, and more. We're also excited to invite you to Impact 2024, our global industrial data and AI user conference that will take place this October in Houston, Texas. Impact 2024 will be more than just a conference. It's a gathering of industry visionaries, thought leaders, and innovators committed to shaping the future of industrial data and AI. You'll hear from top industry experts in energy, manufacturing, power and renewables, and also network with thought leaders across asset performance management, production management, power system analysis, and beyond. Last but not least, you'll be able to participate in interactive sessions, workshops, hackathons, and of course, witness Cognite Data Fusion in action and see how our customers are using it to drive business value at scale. To learn more about the conference and take advantage of super early bird pricing, please scan the QR code you see on the screen or visit cognite.com today. In the meantime, if you want to dive deep into data contextualization, knowledge graphs, generative AI, or other topics, visit resource.cognite.com for our extensive collection of industry content. Finally, if you have follow-ups, comments, questions, or discussions, please visit our open user community Cognite Hub, available at hub.cognite.com. We hope you found today's product tour informative, and we'd be delighted to hear from you. Thanks again for investing your time with us today, and we look forward to seeing you soon.